Alex, I spent 30 years building things you need a forklift to move: tables, timber frames, iron gates. But lately, I've been fascinated by the stuff you can lose in the cracks of the floorboards.
Are we finally admitting that your eyesight is too far gone for the big stuff? Or are you just tired of throwing your back out every time you want to make a gift?
Well, my spine certainly appreciates the scale of jewelry making, but there's a different kind of pressure when the material you're working with costs more per ounce than my first truck. In woodworking, if I mess up a tenon, I've got a fancy firewood pile. In silver or gold work, if your torch hand shakes for a split second, you've basically just vaporized your grocery budget for the week.
It is a bit more high stakes. Today we're diving into the world of small-scale metalwork and jewelry. Everything from stringing beads to the actual fire and hammer side of metalsmithing. Tiger, where does a person even start without needing a specialized degree or a vault full of bullion?
Honestly, it starts with the three musketeers of the jewelry bench: the round nose, the chain nose, and the side cutters. And I don't mean the rusty ones from the trunk of your car. These are precision instruments. If you try to bend a delicate silver head pin with house wiring pliers, you're going to leave teeth marks all over that metal like a frustrated toddler.
I've seen those beginner kits online. They usually look like they're made of recycled soda cans. If I'm just curious, do I really need the German-style wire and the professional-grade shears right away?
It's the classic maker's dilemma. You don't need a $500 setup to see if you like the craft, but if you buy the bargain bin wire that's essentially painted copper, it's going to flake and snap. Then you'll think you're bad at it, when really, your materials were just fighting you. I always tell folks to grab a spool of decent dead soft copper or sterling silver-filled wire. It's forgiving. It moves where you tell it to stay.
Dead soft. That sounds like a description of my cardio level. What does that actually mean in metal speak?
It's all about temper. Metal has a memory. Dead soft means it's been annealed, heated up and cooled, so the molecules are relaxed. It's like butter, but the more you wiggle it or hit it, the harder it gets. It's called work hardening. If you over-manipulate a jump ring, it gets brittle and snaps. That's usually the moment I hear people in the shop start questioning their life choices.
Okay, let's talk about the engineering of a necklace. I saw a tutorial about stringing and crimping. It sounds simple, but I've had necklaces literally fall apart while I'm wearing them. What's the secret to making sure your hard work doesn't end up scattered all over the floor of a restaurant?
The crimp is the weakest link if you treat it like a chore. Most people just mash the little metal tube flat with pliers and call it a day. That's like trying to secure a rope by stepping on it. You need a dedicated crimping tool. It has these two little notches. One looks like a U and the other like a O. You use the first one to dent the tube into a C shape, wrapping the wires in their own little channels, and the second one to fold it into a solid, round bead. It's a structural weld without the heat.
So, no mashing. Got it. And what about the wire itself? You mentioned tiger tail. Is that just a branding thing for you?
I wish I got royalties for that. No, tiger tail is a stainless steel cable coated in nylon. It's the bridge building material of the jewelry world. It doesn't kink like regular wire, but it also won't stretch like silk thread. If you're making something with heavy stones, say those faceted rondelles or chunky boho beads, you need that steel core. Otherwise, over time, gravity wins, and your necklace grows 2 inches and looks like a wet noodle.
Let's turn up the heat. I've been watching some of the Week in the Life of a Metalsmith vlogs, and there's something mesmerizing about the soldering, but it feels scary. I'm used to you welding big steel beams, Tiger. How do you do that on something the size of a fingernail?
It's a different kind of bravery. Small-scale soldering is actually a misnomer. We're technically brazing. You aren't just melting a bead of lead on top. You're heating the entire piece of metal until the solder, which is a slightly different alloy, wickers into the joint by capillary action. You're essentially inviting the metal to become one.
I've seen you get frustrated when a piece slumps. That's the term, right? When you get it too hot and the jewel you've been working on for 6 hours just turns into a puddle?
Oh man, you're poking at an old wound. Last month, I was finishing a bezel for an emerald cut stone. I was being cocky, trying to show off a one-pass solder. I stayed on the heat for maybe 2 seconds too long, and I watched that silver band just relax into a blob of liquid mercury right before my eyes. There's no undo button for that. You just stand there in the silence of your shop, listening to the torch hiss, and you realize you've just turned a Saturday afternoon into a very expensive piece of scrap.
But the vloggers always seem to save it. I saw one where she thought a ring was beyond saving, but she filed it back, resoldered a new shank, and it looked better than the original. Is that just YouTube magic, or is metal really that forgiving?
That's the beauty of it. Unlike wood, where a hole is a hole forever, metal is recyclable. You can melt it down, or you can patch and file. If you have a good set of needle files and some sandpaper ranging from 400 to 2000 grit, you can hide a multitude of sins. The trick is patience. Most beginners stop sanding at 600 grit. They think it's shiny. But then they hit it with the polishing compound, and every single scratch they left behind pops out like a neon sign.
Like a high-definition TV showing every wrinkle on an actor's face.
Exactly, you have to earn that mirror finish.
Talk to me about the setup. I noticed your jewelry bench is way higher than your woodworking bench. My chin is almost touching the table when I sit there. Why the weird ergonomics?
Because you're doing surgery, not carpentry. In woodworking, you use your weight to push a plane or a saw. In jewelry, you need your eyes 6 inches from the workpiece. If the bench is at waist height, you'll be hunched over like a gargoyle within 20 minutes. A proper jeweler's bench sits at chest height so you can sit upright, elbows tucked in, supported. And that bench pin, that little scrap of wood sticking out, that's your best friend. It's your anvil, your vise, and your stabilizer all in one.
And the catch-all tray underneath? Be honest, how much gold have you mined out of that tray at the end of the year?
It's called a leather apron or a skin. It catches the lemel, the tiny filings. And yes, if you're working in gold, you don't throw those filings in the trash. You brush them into a jar. Every few years, you send that jar to a refiner, and they send you a check. It's the only hobby I know where the sawdust pays for your next vacation.
We haven't talked about findings. It sounds like something you'd find at a lighthouse, but in jewelry, it's all the functional bits, right? Clasps, ear wires, jump rings. This seems like the place where most people get maker's block.
Findings are the hardware. It's easy to get overwhelmed because there are 10,000 types of clasps. Lobster claws, toggles, magnetic barrel. My rule of thumb, match the clasp to the wearer's lifestyle. Don't put a tiny, finicky spring ring on a bracelet for someone who lives alone and doesn't have a third hand to help them put it on. Use a toggle. It's gravity-fed and easy.
And the jump rings. I've seen people pull them apart like they're opening a bag of chips. You've threatened to kick me out of the shop for that.
Because you're ruining the circle. Never pull a jump ring open by widening the gap. You twist it laterally like a swinging gate. That way the metal maintains its circular tension. When you twist it back, the ends click together perfectly. If you pull it wide, it'll never be a perfect circle again. It'll be an oval of shame.
Oval of shame. I'm putting that on a t-shirt.
You know, at the end of the day, whether you're making a simple pair of earrings with some tiger tail and a few Jesse James beads, or you're sweat soldering a complex silver housing for a faceted stone, it's about the same thing. It's about taking something raw and making it personal.
It feels more intimate than a bookshelf. You're making something that someone is going to wear against their skin. It's a gift that travels with them.
Beautifully said. And as a takeaway for everyone listening, don't let the preciousness of the material paralyze you. It's just metal. If you bend it wrong, bend it back. If you melt it all the way and start over. The only way to learn how the metal feels is to mess up a few ounces of it.
Just maybe start with copper before you move to the family heirlooms.
Solid advice. Go get your hands dirty, or at least get them a little dusty with silver. We'll see you next time in the Tiger Den.